shocked and horrified, particularly when you've got somebody like Diane, who's been around for a long time and is probably the most abused woman, but also the most abused parliamentarian in our place at the moment.
It's clearly not been a great week, but I think the Prime Minister was correct in what he said. I think Frank Hester, as far as we can tell, in the years that have passed since he made those remarks, has reflected on his behaviour, has realised that what he said was racist, it was inappropriate. And I think we recognise that those of us who have the benefit of working in an environment where we're able to make sure that we are using respectful and appropriate language, that isn't something which everybody in the world has the opportunity to learn. And I think forgiveness is important, especially where remorse is shown. He's clearly come forward and said he wants to apologise. He sought to contact Diane Abbott in particular, but to say that apology very publicly. And we need to make sure, and I think as all parties have to, when they have individuals who may be good people who make mistakes in good faith, then we need to make sure that those mistakes are able to be acknowledged.
I mean, I think what many of my listeners might feel, David, is if you look at his apology, he does apologise for being rude, but he doesn't seem to understand that he was racist.
Well, it's unambiguous the remarks that he made were racist. And I think we recognise that, those are remarks which probably many of us would have heard certainly many, many years ago in our own childhoods. And I hope that as a country, we'd moved well beyond that we'd actually learned to respect each other and to get on. Now, clearly, if this is an individual who's not had that opportunity, but they recognise they should have done so and that they've apologised and that they want to show that they've changed their behaviour, that they've recognised the offence that they caused and that they'll behave differently in future, then I think that is something which we need to acknowledge as well. And that's why I think in this context, forgiveness is important. We need to recognise if somebody has learnt from mistakes that they've made, then that is a positive thing. It shows that as a society, we are moving forward. And it's a lesson that we all need to reflect on in pretty much every walk of our life.
Khalid, Mahmood, what was your reaction when you heard those words?
I was shocked and horrified, particularly when you've got somebody like Diane, who's been around for a long time and is probably the most abused woman, but also the most abused parliamentarian in our place at the moment. And to pick on her in the way it's been done, I don't think it's something that can be sort of brushed over. I think it just looks at the huge culture that we have in our higher echelons of our boards of big companies and all sorts of places where there are no people of colour, because it's okay to make those remarks when those people aren't there. And so therefore, it's got to be much more different. We've made a huge advances. We've got Rishi as the Prime Minister. We've had chancellors. We had foreign secretaries of colour. We've got all those things. We've got now the first the regional leader of a party.
Vaughan Gething.
In Europe,
yep.
Paul Gethings. And so we've got all those people, Sadiq Khan, Hamza Yusuf and Asawa, all of those people. But it's no good if we have all those people, but still it's undermined at a huge level, particularly at the level it counts. We get abused at all sorts of level. And to have it at this level, I think totally is not acceptable.
Mm. How did you feel when you heard the I mean, I was very shocked. I had to sort of read the story twice because I couldn't quite believe the language. What did you think?
I mean, I was the same as you, Aisha. I was shocked, but also I was not surprised because of the level of abuse that Diane Abbott has faced throughout her career. The first Black MP, the first Black female MP, an absolute trailblazer, whether or not you agree with her views, and also the most abused MP that there ever has been. And we live in a climate where it's absolutely okay to say these things about Black women. The misogynoir that's levelled against Black women is off the scale. It's out of control. And, the comments that Diane Abbott faced are things that, Black women face in their everyday lives, in their careers, in their offices. When walking around, I've been there. I am there every single day. And I think what we also have to realise is Frank Hester didn't apologise for being racist. You're very right in pointing out there, Aisha, that he doesn't doesn't seem to realise that what he said was racist. He said that he was rude. He won't accept that he was racist. He is apologising for being rude, but not apologising for being racist and misogynistic. He doesn't seem to accept that he has done that. Therefore, there's nothing to forgive him for, because he hasn't apologised for it. So we're not moving on. There is no contrition there on his behalf. And the only reason actually why he apologised is because he got found out. It's because 5 years after this incident happened, that's when we're finding out. That's the only reason why he's apologising. He's not apologising because he's recognised that he's done something wrong. Of course he doesn't. And actually in the week after it, and the whole week after it, after this story has come out, the levels of abuse that Black women have faced for calling this out is another whole part to the story. Is that when, people have been posting things on X and social media about how terrible it is that Diane Abbott even has to face this, about the fact that she was ignored at PMQs when she was the one that wanted to ask a question about it.
Yeah.
You have all these people in Parliament talking about her, but not to her.
Okay.
And the fact that when we talk about that, the abuse continues against Black women.
I think that's a really important point. Actually, John McDonnell has just done a tweet saying, try tweeting something positive about Diane Abbott and just look at the abuse that you will get, and that will give you a glimpse into the abuse that she gets. Now, we are now joined by Alistair Carmichael, Liberal Democrat MP for Orkney and beautiful Shetland, spokesperson for Home Affairs, Justice in Northern Ireland. Alistair, we're delighted to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
I'm delighted to be here, yes. It's quite unusual for me to be late because of a train. Usually it's a plane or a ferry, but I like to give everybody the full travel experience.
Full equality across all different forms of late transport. Now, Alistair, it will come as no surprise that our first topic has been these comments made by Frank Hester about Diane Abbott. We've heard from David, from Khalid, and from Afua. What was your reaction to this story when you heard it, and where are you now on it?
Right, okay. Well, I'm pretty much in the same place as I was when I first heard it. The comments are absolutely dreadful. They are, indefensible. And the fact that it took people so long to come out and say that they were racist, it just tells you, a story in itself. There's part of me, it feels that actually we're spending too much time talking about the Conservatives and Frank Hester for obvious reasons, but actually the real focus of attention here ought to be Diane Abbott, because, as a Black woman who has attracted an enormous amount of criticism and occasionally hatred over the years, living as we do now in an age where, in my time in Parliament, I've seen 2 colleagues murdered in the street, just out doing their job as parliamentarians. I think I would like to see more attention given to that.
The comments made by Diane in that article, or the letter she was writing, were not justified at all. They were wrong, and she should not have written that. But going on from that, we've had now almost over 9 months, I think, of that case going in the party. And I think what we need to do is address it as quickly as possible. And as I say, we need to look at what her apology is, whether we can accept her apologies and bring it back. So I know that MPs and even the leader has no bearing on the process, which is quasi-legal in the party. But what we need to do is to come to some sort of an issue, to have a look at it properly, get people on the National Executive to look at it and come forward with a reasonable view on it.
Okay. Afua, what are your views on this? Do you think Diane Abbott should be allowed back into the Labour Party?
I absolutely do. I mean, when it comes to that letter that she wrote, I agree with you that it was clumsy, it was absolutely wrong, and she apologised for the offence that she caused, and quite rightly, she definitely needed to do that. But also there have been other people in the Labour Party who have had the whip drawn suspended for one reason or another, that have had the whip restored to them, or had a line drawn under that inquiry much, much quicker. So why is it that Diane Abbott is being frozen out in this way? And I think actually the Labour Party is just underlining the fact that they just seem to have a real problem with her. And it's kind of a way of freezing her out. I'm sure that there's other people in the party that are vying after her seat, actually, and it's a very sure seat. And I think there's an element of that happening. And we're talking about Britain's first and longest serving Black MP to be treated so shabbily by the party that she's a member of.
Okay.
Diane Abbott herself, has said that Keir Starmer asked her, let me know if there's anything that you can do. And she said twice to him, restore the whip. And I think that would be the best thing to do in this case.
Although, to be fair, just for accuracy, it's not in Keir Starmer's gift, because following all the anti-Semitism and the inquiry by the Equality and Human Rights Commission, there is an independent process which takes it out of the leader's office. But so it's actually not Keir Starmer's decision. That was quite an important aspect of all the anti-Semitism stuff that went on in the Labour Party. But there is such a clamour to get a sort of a just resolution for this. David Simmonds, I'm going to come back to you. Quite a few people have messaged in, particularly about the money that Mr Hester has given to the Conservative Party. £10 million. Tortoise is reporting that there's an additional £5 million. Many people have messaged, and someone has said, sorry to ask the Conservative MP a rude question, but what percentage of the 10 or 15 million pounds would you be happy to take? Would you be happy to take that kind of money from that kind of person? That's to you, David Simmonds.
It's a very, very good question. I think my personal view is he is, as I understand it, has given the donations in good faith because he wanted to support the Conservative Party. And it seems to me, just repeating the point I made earlier on, that he has acknowledged his mistake, that the things that he said were racist and were inappropriate. That's my view. That's the Prime Minister's view. That's my party's view. But as somebody who wants to play a positive part in society, I think we have to acknowledge that there's also the opportunity to forgive him for the things that he's done in the past, given that he's apologised for those. And I think, as you've highlighted, all political parties face these challenges. I think if people who make mistakes but who seek to act in good faith are simply cancelled, then that is not going to help us as a society and as a country to move forward. And I recognise, as in the case of Diane Abbott, as in the case of many others who've been accused of making inappropriate remarks, it's the way they respond to that, it's the way that they learn from that, that tells us whether they're somebody who is going to make a positive contribution in the future, or whether they're somebody who is going to cause damage to other people by their behaviour.